Well, hello there, guys. So, today, real quick, let's talk escalation. Right now, we have a avian bird flu alarm, alert, whatever, with a supposed 30 to 60% mortality rate. Keep your eyes on that, my friends. They've been doing gain of function on such a thing, and mind you, the bird flu's been going around with the chickens lately, and they have been depopulating them, as well as other things going on, like this spill of the railroad in Ohio, which is killing animals up to 10 miles away, from what I've noticed. And then there was supposedly there was something in Arizona, and here just minutes ago, Michigan. Now, many people will talk about, is the United States under attack? Are we in some sort of Cold War? Are we in some sort of war with Russia or China? Sorry, guys, I had to pause there for a minute. Baby needed my attention. But yeah, like, are we in some sort of Cold War with China? Well, we have been for a while now, quite a long while. They've been buying up our property and all, but I wouldn't call it a Cold War because I believe 100% with every fiber of my being that this is all planned. So, way back when Nixon, with Henry Kissinger and other people who were involved with, so let's say, the World Economic Forum, although at the time I believe it was just the European Economic Forum or something to that extent. Remember, Klaus Schwab is a student of Henry Kissinger, that is his mentor. But they opened up China to outsource production. They knew that we could create a whole fiat system and outsource our production for cheap products to get extremely wealthy on the slave labor of the Chinese. And because they have an authoritarian system, they can make this happen. Now, that authoritarian system backfired to some degree in the year 1987, or was it 87, right? When Tiananmen Square happened. I might be wrong about that date off the top of my head, but whatever. You want to say hi? Say hi. Anyways, and so when they opened up China, they also, at the same time, around the same time, changed the gold standard. Now, why do you think they did that? At the same time, MIT and other organizations like the Club of Rome put out limits of growth, folks. At this point in time, the mainstream narrative was that global cooling was going to happen and we were going to enter into another ice age. Now, I grew up during the 80s, right, in elementary school. And in the 80s, all we heard about was global warming and saving the earth. This was part of the activism phase of education that got implemented in the 1960s and the 70s. And by the time I went to school, it was in full fruition. So they taught us about CFCs and the ozone layer having a hole in it. We had to get rid of these things. And, using paper bags was bad. And so we had to go to plastic. Now, oddly enough, we're going back to plastic because all paper bags can actually be recycled, right? We were going to destroy the rainforest. They've been saying this for 40 years, guys. I am nearly just a few days away from being 42. They've been saying this my entire life. The rainforest is going to be absolutely destroyed, just like Al Gore. Oh, thank you, baby. I should get my haircut like that. I've been needing a haircut here lately. Just a trim, guys. Nothing drastic. Nothing drastic. Anyways, they think about it. They were predicting these things forever, right? That's the point. They were predicting these things for my entire life, and then Al Gore comes along and says Miami's going to be underwater by 2012. AOC has said, 4 or 5 years ago now, might have even been 6 years. How long has she been in office? I guess 4 years, right? That we only had 12 years left, which means we only have 8 years left. This is nonsense. It's all nonsense. It is to gaslight you into believing that there is some sort of global emergency. And there is, but it's all contrived. It's all created. It's all a matter of these people creating the situation. And right now, with the authoritarian system, the Chinese are going to be in a demographic decline. Now, they might be able to recover from that, but this is going to be a universal global thing. And in part, this is what apparently the globalists want. They want to depopulate. They want to depopulate specifically the southern hemisphere. That's why they have all these immigrants from Africa and all that stuff come into, Europe. Now you could say, well, a lot of those immigrants are Syrian and da da da. Sure, but the thing is, it's disrupting those areas. Those areas aren't as well managed and populated, and when I mean managed, I mean like city management, all that kind of stuff, right? It's a little bit rougher in those areas. They don't have the first world commodities. What the globalists seem to want to do is depopulate the southern hemisphere, which is less populous in general. I mean, there is like a billion people in Africa, right? But Africa is a gigantic continent, right? South America is going to, as well, has less infrastructure, and they want to depopulate it to some degree. Again, seems to be the trend. This also helps them with their goals of elections, all that stuff, demographic changes, helps them with representative ways that they manipulate everything, right? It's a form of gerrymandering, but it's even bigger. But let's get back on track with the topic at hand, and that is all the natural disasters. Now, there's this idea that there are eco-terrorists going around doing all this, and this is silly to me. These people are not that well organized. If you remember the other year when Antifa assaulted the ICE facility, a man was shot and died because he threw a propane canister and they were shooting at it at some facility to try and blow it up, which was stupid because it probably would have injured the inmates who were illegal immigrants. These people don't think very clearly. They are mentally ill. What is happening with these supply chain things is 100% military action. These are former spooks. These are former special operations. These are former guys who maybe weren't quite on that level, but like the level I was on, where had a little bit more than basic infantry training, some level in between there, right? Who can pick up, who are smart enough, who can then gain access to the civilian sector, all that kind of stuff. I said the same thing about the pipeline, the Russian pipeline that was sabotaged. Could have been the military, but that means there's going to be official documents, and that means that's a clandestine act of war. Of course, Israel let that out the bag, but that is seemingly what happened. So what is going on? Well, right now we're seeing the escalation of things. And if you think about all of this as a chess match, right, since at least the 70s, and this goes way back before that, you were setting up the beginning of the game. There is the starting of your game, or you're setting up your pieces. So in the setting of your pieces, this is called opening in chess, right? And it takes time. Hold on. No. What? Yes, I see. Good job. She wants me to show. She wants to show me her little toy there. Anyways, guys, so in the opening of chess, or the beginning of the chess, you're setting up all your pieces. And what you're trying to do as you do this is you're trying to have every piece covered by every other piece. You're trying to see what they can see, right? Observation. One piece observes another, and in that way protects them, right? And as you set all this up, you're laying out the field of battle. This takes some time sometimes, unless you're playing a timed game, a game where you only have like 5 minutes or so to make so many moves. And so with that, you are setting up these pieces and the other people are. But what if you're playing a game of chess against people who are novices or not well organized, right? Now, chess is not as an individual game, but let's say you had many players collaborating. Well, you're getting lots of different input, and you're not going to coordinate very well, because this is one of the actual benefits of centralization. There's a distinct downfall to centralization, and that it creates weakness. But one of the benefits is the direction of information comes down very quickly, right? And so you have these pieces being set up, this mission being set forth that these people are believing in, and over the years, all this is there. Then what happens is suddenly a blitzkrieg of taking happens in chess. This is called middle game, and colloquial blitzkrieg, where it's just an all-out assault. Piece goes after piece after piece after piece until suddenly you enter endgame. And what we're in the midst of right now is that middle game of chess. There's the blitzkrieg that is happening to all of these things before the Great Reset. When the Great Reset happens, that will be the end game. This is the Great Reset, mind you, that we're in, but I mean the conclusion of it, that 2030 date-ish, right? The EU Parliament just banned all gasoline vehicles by 2035. What does that tell you? You're not going to be able to travel. You're going to be hugely restricted unless you know how to live off the land, unless you know how to get around these things. And maybe all this will go away. Maybe in some imaginary world where reality is not what it is. These people are far more powerful and far more entrenched than you think. Their tendrils run everywhere. So, what happens in 2030 and beyond? Well, that's called endgame in chess. And the endgame is very simple. It's very simple. There are only a few elite pieces left. Generally, the queens and kings, right? Because the king is the piece to take. There are very few pawns left. Almost all pawns are eliminated. Pawns can then quickly rise to the top and become, any sort of rank above them because there's so few pieces left. Ideally, they want to become the queen because there's no other queen, no other piece so powerful on the board, and that is what you want. But think of this. Think of this. What I'm describing to you, who are the pawns in reality? How many pawns will be left? Who are the powerful pieces? And think of a good chess game. How many powerful pieces are left? Now, again, if you are an experienced chess player playing an unexperienced chess player, there's going to be a lot of powerful pieces left with almost none of your pawns and almost none of your pieces. Or if you're really, maybe you're a mediocre chess player, maybe you're like an 800 or something like that in chess scoring, so you know some basic stuff, you can kind of survive. But they're, a master chess player, 2500. So what does that mean? Well, they're probably going to beat you in a few moves. You're going to have nearly all your pieces, but you're going to be completely defeated. We can think about this in various different ways, depending on where you are at or the system that you are in. Like here, for me in West Virginia, I feel like I'm a little bit better isolated than other people. But there are also issues. I'm very close to D.C. There are things, right? There are tactical decisions. There are always things. No place is perfect. In fact, escaping the country is probably the best idea. But unfortunately, I don't really have the means for that yet. So, that's another thing. That's another issue. But the point is that there might be a lot of pawns left on the board who are just under complete control of this new regime, or there could be a ton of elimination, which actually seems to be the goal. And if you look at all the random supply chain things that are happening, if you look at all of the diseases, all the things that they're trying to ramp up, maybe the world isn't as bad off as it seems. Maybe the news is just super negative. But I can tell you this, with ESGs, with the push for wokeism, yes, perhaps we are winning to some degree. Perhaps we are creating a cultural shift to some degree. But it's going to take a long time if they start annihilating us in this middle game of chess. It's going to take a long time to pick up the pieces at that end game. It's going to be really hard to run and escape if there is nothing left. And that's what seems to be going on right now and will be going on again for the next 7 years or so, folks. And it's going to get worse and worse and tighter, and the inflation is going to get more and more. And this isn't to scare you. It's to have you have the proper mindset so you can be prepared. But guys, that's all I have to say for today. This has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.